These are the topics we're going to cover in the GP 2015. What's new? First of all, the support changes that occur when a new product is released or a new version. I'm going to talk about identity management briefly. I'm going to go through some of the expanded workflows capabilities. We're going to talk about new features, service-based architecture, the self-service user licensing, which you get more details from Dave Gersten, and then the enhanced business intelligence aspects. So if we go to the next slide, we'll talk about the support changes. Support changes are typical of any new release. 2 releases back then become obsolete, and then direct support is no longer supported. So GP 2010 and versions prior will no longer be supported directly. This means generally that there are no feature enhancements, no bug fixes, no real direct support. While you can call the support line and get some questions answered, generally speaking, there will be no additional support except through your VAR. And then there's no payroll tax updates as well if you're using payroll. So those are the basics on any support changes when a new release comes out. And then if we can go forward to the identity management. Identity management is dealing with the fact that you have multiple ways of logging in across the cloud. We have multiple products running they're all interlinked. The identity management capability then gives you a single way of logging in, and it applies and authenticates to any of the products that you're using. So this is mainly in the cloud, Azure, what we call Azure AD accounts, which is the Active Directory accounts, then apply to all of the products in the cloud, so you don't have to log in each product separately with a separate password, etc. So this is a major enhancement for cloud capability that is quite prevalent today and very popular. So that's one of the big things that's going on. Next slide, please. In the workflows. Workflow is something that came out new in the latter part of the 2010 release. It was expanded in 2013, and now they've expanded it again. Workflow gives you the ability to provide for, shall we say, an approval process in general through the system, whether they be users that are in GP or not. The workflow capability allows you to have an email sent to somebody who's an approval authority to push it through to the next steps, thus the workflow. And that might be based on dollar amounts, maybe based on what the transaction is, etc. And all of that is defined within the product, GP 2015. And in the setup windows, etc., you'll configure the product accordingly and decide, who's the approval authority, who gets the emails. It may even show up in on the desktop of the GP user, so that they know that they have something out that they need to approve or push forward. The workflows, starting with the first one here, is for GL batch approvals. Not only can you just turn on the security says it requires approval, user logs in the GP, they have to put a password in. That was the old way of doing it. Now it can simply be a workflow which will push an email out to somebody that needs to approve a batch for posting. And this is cross for clearing, budget transactions, or just general journal entry type transactions. So it's a pretty good thing for, especially at the GL level. A lot of people want to control that aspect. In the next slide, we'll talk about the purchasing module. And 2 areas there is the payables batch approval, which has been asked for quite a long time. This would be for like check runs and any of the payables batches and workflows around that for just posting the batches. In addition, kind of coordinated with that is a vendor approval process. So someone can't just add a vendor to the system without going through the workflow, getting proper authority, proper review of that vendor. They might want to do some kind of a background check for stability or something on that order before you decide you're going to allow purchasing from the vendor. So both the batch approval processes and the vendor approval process now have workflows that are built into the system that you can define and, again, send out emails through Outlook, whatever that is, and get those approvals to come through. The users who do the approval do not have to be GP users in the system. I just want to make sure that people are aware of that the workflow provides for the use of the approvals outside of the system but it brings it into GP and pushes it along through that process. And we talk about the sales in the receivable. Next slide, please. The sales receivable batch approval now has workflow along with it. So as receivables are going into the system, somebody can be reviewing those, approving those, or whatever workflows that are required within the system can be defined. There's a number of screens, that's why I didn't do screenshots on any of these, that are in the setup processes. If there's additional questions about these, please feel free to call in and be happy to try and answer some of those questions and maybe do some screenshots with you to define this a little bit further. Today's purpose is more of an overview to give you an idea of what's new, what's out there, and then you can dive in deeper as need be. But the additional workflow then for payroll, the employee skills approvals, going through those processes, direct deposit approval, so before the direct deposits are released to go out, and then changing settings for those direct deposits, in other words, submitting, a new bank account, etc., that kind of thing. This all goes through the approval process. Employee profiles, and then the W-4 approvals before they get submitted and mailed out. Those are all now have workflows built in as far as those go. Some of the new features in the system, other than just workflow itself, is if you're dealing with intercompany, you now have the ability to do inquiries to see the intercompany journal entries in the other company. So you don't have to log out and switch companies to go see those journal entries. You can now see them through the intercompany inquiry screens that are now within the company that you're in, whether those are incoming or outgoing intercompany transactions. And then the void intercompany transactions capability. So you don't have to log into the other company, do reversing entries, etc. You can void those from the origination and have that stop, go through the system. So two nice real features for the intercompany capabilities in the system. Payment terms. Payment terms in the past, you just able to say, 2%, 10, net 30, that kind of a thing. And then discounting was really not supported. So you could take a discount 2%. There wasn't like real stringent cutoff dates and that kind of information around that. Now they've enhanced that capability, so you can do discount date calculating. It's not just a straight 2% 10, well, 10 off of what date, those kinds of things. So they've enhanced that capability. And parallel with that is the actual transaction calculation and determining when it's actually due, in addition to the discount date itself, but the actual due date. Some people say, yeah, it's net 30, but it's like, yeah, I want it to be the end of the month, and the 30-day month versus a 31-day month, that kind of makes a difference in the 30-day calculation. It'll be on the 30th of the month, assuming a first of the month invoice 30 days later. And they've enhanced those calculations in the window to do some setup around that so that you can control those date calculations better for both, again, the discount date and the due dates. There is now a payables warning for an open PO, that there is an open transaction out there, an open PO associated with your documents. So as you do payables transaction entry, it'll prompt you as an end user. I just lost my screen.
Okay, sorry about that. One moment, see if we can recover this. Okay, are we back up, Mike?
Loading. Yep, there we go. So the payables warning is all about letting you know that there is that open PO, that it's not completely closed. This may have implications for the receiving processes and the matching processes, just so you're aware. That way, if somebody's trying to put a bill in that has an open receiving that's out there, it should be matched instead of just put straight through payables. So this is something to help people, make sure that they're following the systematic flow of the way the system is designed. That being an option, you can still put the transactions through should you need to. Those are the big ones. There is a number of other new features that are in the system. It's tough to go through all of them, decide which ones you want to show, etc. But those are some of the more popular ones. And, something that's also new, if you're on an older version, prior to 2013, at the end of 2013, they also allowed you to select your printer at the time of printing. And there's a number of other, shall we say, operational improvements in the system as well. That was always kind of an annoying thing that, if you didn't select your printer before you printed the screen, then you'd have to reprint the screen, selecting your printer first. Now you can select that printer after it comes to screen to actually send whatever is on screen to the printer of your choice after the fact. So there's a number of other changes there if you're on an older version. Service-based architecture is all about programmer-type capabilities on the back end, more or less. These are enhancements for a programmer to give him or her broader visibility to the code and how to apply that code in many different scenarios and which tools that they use. So it kind of, shall we say, flattens it. So the number of tools that are at their disposal are so voluminous that it's tough to, I got to use the right tool so it fits right and works right. This flattens it out a little more, so close to regardless of which tool you're using to develop, the actual Sanskrit code, which is the base raw code that's in the system, becomes available and visible through the other tools such as C#, etc. And then is published through the REST, which is an acronym. I can't remember the actual acronym, but that is a programmer's management, if you will, on the back end and part of the API. But the service-based architecture really enhances a lot of what the developers have been wanting to assist them with getting code snippets, etc., so they don't have to reproduce work. They can just use parts of that code within their own code that they're developing along the way. So a major enhancement for them. And it also is cross-platform, so it operates in the Apple environment, in the Android environment as well. So it really flattens it out, and HTTPS is also supported. Self-service licenses. This is a lower cost approach that they've come out with to sell you licenses at a substantially lower cost if the user is very light in the system, such as just putting in requisitions. They don't need to look around in the system and run reports and all this other stuff. They're just simply going in, they're putting the requisition and they're getting out. They're putting time in payroll and those kinds of things. So there is a lower cost CAL that's now available. It is on a named user basis, and it is applied based on that user's capabilities within the system, of course. But much cheaper methodology once you know that, so that if you've got some people that you've been kind of holding out of the system, might be a time where you can now let them in and do their work directly in the system and then get out real quick. Not that they have to get out real quick, but it does take away, shall we say, external processes that you may have been performing and make it cheaper to do them within the system and much more efficient as well and cost efficient. Enhanced business technology. In 2013, we experienced the SmartList Designer app, which was an enhancement to SmartList where you can build your own nodes within SmartList and then make them available across the system. They've taken that another step further, that if you develop a SmartList design node against a view, a SQL view, which is nothing more than a SQL script that's been quote-unquote published with a name into the system, you can then make what's called an Excel refreshable report right from SmartList Designer. So you don't have to do this externally now and link up everything within Excel. You can actually set it up from within the SmartList Designer tool. And this allows you to basically create an Excel spreadsheet that's out there that when you open the spreadsheet, it refreshes its data and you don't have to recreate pivot tables and charts and other data that you may have been dumping from SmartList today and performing a number of subtotaling and various other aspects of calculating and analyzing the data that gets dumped. Now all that data can be refreshed automatically. You don't have to redo your calculations, etc. It does refresh the data the calculations are based on, but that's what we call an Excel repeatable or refreshable report. So you just open the Excel spreadsheet, it refreshes itself, and you've now got your current data. It is possible to freeze those so they do not automatically refresh, just so you're aware, so you're in control of when it refreshes. But that's a major thing that people are asking for, and a major enhancement for reporting capabilities. Across the platforms then in the tablet and phone world, Android, iOS, or Windows phones or tablets, they have taken Business Analyzer across all of those platforms today. Business Analyzer is an app that's available for free that's out there. Download it onto your phone or tablet. And then when you run it, it can run reports and other information. There'll be SQL Server-based reports and or KPIs right to your phone, right to your tablet, that will look into your system and show you that data on a timely basis. It's not, it's refreshing all the time, and as often as you want it to within the Business Analyzer, you can set those. But it makes, shall we say, your data somewhat portable in the sense that if you just need some key performance, what's going on with our sales, what's going on with, profitability, etc., those can be published, if you will, and securely, through the security in the systems. You can get that data right onto your phone or tablets. So it's now cross-platform, whereas the original release, it was just for the Android marketplace. So that's been fully enhanced. There is some test data if you want to see what it looks like out there. If you download the app, you can run it against test data to see what it's like. And the last thing, I found a couple links for you out there on YouTube that were produced by people within Microsoft to kind of walk you through some of the new features and the system-wide features. They're, about 15 minutes apiece. But these links will take you out to the YouTube, and you can go through those. They'll show you screenshots and walk you through in much more detail what we've kind of just talked about. But with that, I'm not sure if, Sharice, are you going to plan on sending this out afterwards, or you can call in and ask. But if there's any questions on the GP 2015.
So on to the next slide. Also, some other features that has been added was for the mobile apps. I think most of it resolves around the tablet is, well, now, of course, you can create more online drafts. So, say, for example, you are wanting to update your CRM, while you're at a business meeting, on site at a client's office, you don't know their Wi-Fi. You can actually start updating and adding stuff, and then when you sync back up and connect to Wi-Fi, you can update that information to the CRM, once you go online, which obviously is a great feature. So they're building that out. If you haven't used the tablet app, it's actually pretty powerful. I think they did a very good job with it. It's very useful. I was actually very initially impressed with it. And then also the dashboard, so that the graphs and whatnot that are on the tablet, now they can all be enabled, which is great. So if you're building out custom charts and graphs, you can now see those on the tablet devices. So that's a great add-on. Okay, so kind of getting out of mobility is the desktop app. So this is something that it probably should have took as long as it did for them to add, but now they have a multi-entity quick find, and I go back to CRM 3.0 and 4.0. If your organization was large enough to have a CRM admin, they would spend a good percentage of their week trying to find activities or contacts that were entered in the system and no one could find, and the admin would be able to pinpoint it. Well, they've expanded now that quick find feature to actually work across multiple entities. Now, there was some custom add-ons that you could add to it, but now it's built in. I believe there's still a limit though. I think it only does like 4 or 5 entities at a time, but that's you really most of the time it's really just accounts, contacts, opportunities or leads. But you can see that here in this top picture. You can search through there. Also, they've also expanded that ability with the wildcard, so that they've enhanced that ability. And then lastly, with this multi-entity quick find, you could actually narrow it down. So it's a little bit quicker to do. You don't have to pull out advanced find and build a custom view and query and all that. So that's obviously a big feature that I think is fine. It's great that they finally got it going. This is another big one, is Outlook and sync features. It's another thing a lot of people ask is, everybody's comfortable with their Outlook and wants to use their Outlook, and doesn't want to get in the CRM if they don't have to. So they've enhanced this a lot too. There's actually custom fields. You can pick more fields that you want to sync across. You can do assign tasks. Now the attachments and appointments go over. So if you attach a document to an appointment, someone else on your team or your manager can see that, which is great. Also, they have a private note feature, which is great. I think that's something that's great for the end user. They can actually, you can put notes in there on a contact, and it won't get shared to the CRM. So that's a good concession to the user. And then of course they made it a little bit clearer, like what items fields will be synchronized, so there's no guesswork. So I think that's great, just making it, identifying it. And this is another screenshot is some more settings that are more in the configuration settings, but these are just screenshots of what it looks like now, and they're making it very straightforward to make these changes and customize for your organization. This is another cool one, the hierarchical visualization. I don't know if I said that right, but basically they added this visualization to accounts, products, and users. I believe there might be a couple other record types that are added in here, but basically you'll be going through the CRM. I don't know if you noticed this, sales, accounts, and you'll see this icon right here. So the CRM hasn't changed much in that aspect. But when you click on there, you get this nice visualization. And what this does, this shows you how the records are related, which helps. And if you don't understand how the CRM links across between record types, this will definitely, I think, help the novice users visualize that a lot easier. And then obviously the more experienced users, it'll make it a lot less work clicking around and trying to figure out which primary contact is connected to which account, and which account has which sub account. And this is something that I definitely think will help if you utilize the primary contacts and sub accounts and whatnot. It'll definitely help organizations that are using that. Also, they did it for users too. And then the next one I will talk about the actual products, which I think is great if you're using products and creating if you're doing orders and invoices and whatnot in the CRM. This is a big plus. So now if you look here on the screenshot, you can actually go ahead and add in here bundles. This is stuff that the ERP systems have, but the CRM has kind of lacked. You can have product relationships, and then it actually takes it to the next level, and you can actually create suggestions. So the salespeople can see suggestions for cross-selling and upselling, recommendations. If they hit certain criteria in an opportunity or an order, the CRM is going to, that can predefine in the CRM to say, hey, we recommend you adding this product on there, or recommend you doing this. And as you can tell in the screenshot, this is showing you that right here, so that you can actually click suggestions, and then you have these different options here that will be a lot clearer for the salesperson, and helping them focus on the deal and not worrying about the nitty gritty additional accessories that they could be upselling. This will help identify that a lot easier. Now this is the enhanced business rules and business flows are our business flow processes. This is something that we've been actually rolling out a lot, kind of towards the end of this last year. It's something new that came out the tail end of CRM 2011, right before 2013 came out, and then they enhanced it a little bit, and now it's been there for a while, and we've actually gotten some of our customers to use it, and I think it's a great thing, and that's the business process flows. That's right up here, this top long screenshot. You can see the lead, and then it goes qualify, develop, progress. And this is something that, since I've been using CRM, and I think that goes with any CRM, is there's certain information that the user needs to put in there, and maybe the decision makers who help develop the CRM said, we need these fields are obviously the most important, and then we'd like to have these fields, and the rest of these fields, if they filled out, great. If not, well, that usually gets lost somewhere in translation between training and new hires and whatnot, and over time. The business process flows are great for this because they actually identify, maybe outside of just the required fields, that you have to fill out before you can move to the next stage. This allows you to, identify, 5 to 10 fields that are very key and very important, and it highlights to every user every time, when they're going through your sales process from lead to opportunity to account, whatever that process is, it helps identify that. And they're adding on features that allow you to add branches. So like this example here, for example, let's say that in the process of qualifying a lead, you learn that the person plans to buy next quarter, which means that you'll need to put together a sales proposal and get the right approvals. The business process you're following guides you through the right steps to handle this prospect with no guesswork. So you're able to actually add branches. So if the sale is not going to happen until next quarter, well, then we're going to want, our salespeople to, do this and this, versus if it's going to happen this quarter, let's go ahead and, push that through and get it handled. It's another great thing that they're adding on, and it really enhances and actually streamlines the system, because these business process flows, if you don't have experience with them, they really do help the salesperson. It helps the salesperson identify what specific he needs to get the right information in the CRM, and then go back to focusing on the deal, and not going through a form with 30 different fields and trying to figure out, well, do I need to fill this out or not fill this out? They can't remember. So that's definitely something to look at, and it definitely helps out with training and streamlining. The last thing is the business rules. This is form scripting. This is kind of a little more technical, but basically they've done a great job of if there is CRM admins and system administrators, they're having the ability that you can now, like a sticky interface, add JavaScript to the forms and logic and whatnot, without actually having to do any JavaScript. And they've added if-then condition abilities, and you can combine expressions. And there's also, you can actually do multiple conditions. Before, you'd have to, kind of do a couple different lines of business rules, and then, hopefully you got the right effect that you were going for with your logic. So this actually, really amplifies the ability there and makes it much more effective. So as a good salt, and I'm excited for that, because that'll help out. I'm highlighting a few more features here that I think were worth mentioning. So there's new security roles that allow, it's kind of more of a system admin type of feature that allows you to go through here and actually see, what records are based off which ones. Again, the CRM has a lot of data in there, and it allows you to see, what's affecting what, and that security can be kind of a pain in the CRM, because it can get very granular, but if something's not configured right, it's a pain to get determined. So that helps out with administrating the system. Service level agreements, the SLAs, they added a big feature here. Basically now you can, there's actually two different types of SLAs now. There was the original SLAs that have worked in the CRM, are still the same. Now they have enhanced SLAs that allow you to pause it based on status reason. And of course, you see here in the system settings picture, you can customize the status reasons and base that on your organization. So that's a great feature. if you are using that service side of the CRM. And the last couple things are social listening. So if you're using that additional product of the CRM, it's now available for on-premise. So that's good to know that that feature affects you. And then the last thing, it revolves around Microsoft Dynamics Marketing. They're actually doing, I think is really cool, is the Dynamics Marketing, if you don't know what that is, that's Microsoft's, dedicated marketing platform for organizations, and it's right here. It looks like the CRM, but it's not. It's a separate login and whatnot, or separate location. But what they are is they're integrating it with CRM more and more, even though it's only been out for about a year. Now they're allowing people with certain permissions in the CRM to provide input and feedback on campaigns and targeting that the marketing is working on. And they're trying to close that gap between the sales and marketing department, and creating more synergy and more communication. So that's this. They have this new. It's called the Sales Collaboration Panel, and this little screenshot of it, and it's allowing again the salespeople to kind of get an idea of what's going on in marketing and give live feedback right to marketing, saying, hey, what you did in the last campaign, this worked, this didn't. And giving that more real-time feedback. So that's another great feature. And that wraps up the CRMs.